I hereby call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. The time is 4 o'clock. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Amy Paling, Don Cesaretti, Ann Hart,
Here.
Bonnie Kim,
Here.
Frank Panzica, Lisa Schneider-Fabes,
Here.
Aaron Stone.
Here. I seek a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Board members, are there any comments, errors, or omissions to the minutes? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ann Hart,
Yes.
Bonnie Kim,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes,
Yes.
Aaron Stone.
Yes, motion carries. Seeing as there are no facility development items, we will begin with school finance. Mr. Bultemeyer.
Okay. So the one topic for today is just talking about our financial audit services. The firm we currently have been using is Baker Tilly. If we go back 3 years to January of 2020, the board at that time had sought proposals and then approved Baker Tilly to provide the audit services of District 39 and WICSE for 3 years. We have since completed those 3 years with the audit they completed last fall. Thus far, Baker Tilly has done a really good job, especially given the circumstances that we've faced the last 3 years. One of the things to keep in mind is audit services is one of some items that are exempt from state bidding laws. The board is free to pick and choose who they would like to use for their audit firm. There's no requirement to go out to bid or do that every so often, and they can extend contracts as they see fit. However, many districts do go out for bid whenever they are seeking a change. Given what's occurred in the last 3 years or 3+ years, then in relation that the audit services bid was conducted in a pre-COVID world, a lot has changed, namely lots of high inflation since then. We've had a discussion with the partner at Baker Tilly, and as we look ahead to what the annual audit fee might be for fiscal year 23, we're looking at a very large increase. So if we were to go back up to the top of the handout, instead of having a fee that's probably around $30,000, we would be looking at something in the 40s, probably in the mid 40s thousands at least. And at least from like their perspective of how a firm might arrive at a number like that, when they're looking at things internally, they're looking at their fee as being the top of the equation, and then like the hours times the billing rate of the staff involved on the bottom of the equation, and they have a target percentage. And where we're at right now is not realistically would probably lead us to not being their client anymore if the fee didn't go up in a very large way. So that puts us in a position where they are looking for, as I said, a very large increase for this upcoming year. And then as the board considers this, it really, I think, puts the board in a position where there's really 3 options. One, we could pursue a 1-year contract renewal with Baker Tilly, or we could see if there's what the multi-year agreement might look like. The most likely scenario would be 3 years. Or the board could direct the administration to essentially go out to bid or go out to request proposals from audit firms, one of which would be Baker Tilly, if we did that, and then see where we're at. And in that scenario, you'd be likely going out and seeking a 3-year proposal, and then coming back to the board with what the summary results are. And I think one thing to keep in mind, since it's a request for proposal and not a bid, we're not buying a commodity where the board is bound by the lowest bid. Even if you were to look back at the 2020 results, there were 6 firms that bid, and the board chose to interview 3 firms that were in the middle of the pricing results. So there's flexibility. It truly is up to the board. And I think, as I've noted, the audit firm that a district uses, the relationship is truly between the board and the audit firm, not necessarily between the administration and the audit firm. So that's the reason we're seeking some feedback. And I guess as far as finding out an exact number of what the renewal price might be, I was told at the very earliest, at the very end of March, likely in April, as the firm is working towards their billing structure for their upcoming fiscal year. But I wanted to bring it to the board in the chance that the board was giving direction to go out and seek proposals that would give us an extra month to engage in that process versus waiting until April. That's really where we're at.
Do you have a recommendation?
I mean, if we were to go out for proposal, I suspect that the number that we would get from a number of firms would be significantly higher than what we had last time. How much has each firm raised their rates in the last 3 years? I suppose each firm is a little different, and I don't know how you looked back at the results from January of 2020. Everybody was within, generally speaking, a few $1,000s of each other over 3 years. So, I mean, I look at it, there's two ways. It's a large increase, right? Like percentage-wise, it would be a large increase. But the flip side is they've done a really good job, and the board, kind of went through this process just 3 years ago. And at least I wasn't here then, but when I look at it, the board didn't immediately gravitate towards the lowest cost provider. So that tells me, at least on some level, that the board valued quality in selecting an audit firm.
So had the board used Baker Tilly before that?
No,
Before
they had
2020?
had a different firm prior to that. And
Every
then,
few years would that change, or?
from what I've seen, I think most organizations would like to see their audit firm, if the audit firm is doing a good job, do their audit for 7 to 10 years before they're thinking about going out. And even then, if you hit 10 years and your board and administration is really finding quality in the audit firm, I know of school district and audit firm relationships that have gone on 20 plus years. So honestly, I would be fine either way. I'm not sure I see a great advantage either way. Like if someone was worried about cost, I'm not sure that we are going to find great savings going out to proposal. The only benefit to that is it would provide everybody with, hey, this is what everybody's publicly bid numbers would be. Honestly, I'm fine. I would be fine with any direction the board provides.
Do other board members have questions or comments?
No, when I talk to them, they would not be surprised if tomorrow I called the partner again and said, hey, we're going to test the waters and see what they would not be surprised at all, and they would not be affected. They would most definitely, they understand, I think the partner in charge finds themselves in a position where the firm has internal targets, and it's not just up to one person. It's like many organizations. If the fee's not high enough, then it has to be raised, at least from their perspective, or it's time to move on. So I think I'm confident that they would bid if we went out for a proposal.
Anyone else?
I would just say that it seems prudent if we do think that the increase could be the mid-40s, and we're not certain it may be higher than that, to have the knowledge from a couple of other bids as well, help us have justified feel good about that increase. It does, from what I'm hearing, there are efficiencies in working and continuing to work with Baker Tilly, and that's likely, at the same time, there are efficiencies in working with them, and that's likely why people stick with their audit firm for 7 to 10 years. Is that correct?
I mean, they will get, on their side, the firms will get, as they work with a client longer, they become more efficient. And there's definitely value on our side to extending the relationship. But if we had to make a switch, yeah, the first year is always a little bumpier. But once you get past like into that second and third year, it's, you form that new relationship and away you go.
So if I understand correctly, the direction you need from us today is if we have an appetite to go out for bids.
That would be helpful. Like if everyone was feeling like we think we should go out for a bid or seek proposals, it would be very helpful to get that direction today. Just because the next logical time would be, is it April 17th, I think? So that's, an extra month of us having that leading into a fiscal year end that ends June 30th.
So if I'm reading, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to suggest we go out to bid. And if Baker Tilly gets the bid, great, but I think they'll sharpen their pencils more if they know their conclusion.
Seeing nodding heads. Yeah, I agree too.
We will do that. Hopefully we can get it all by April, but maybe not. We'll see.
Thank you.
And to be clear, well, I guess it doesn't matter. There's 4 members here, so that direction is clear. Thank you.
As we have no strategy items, we will continue with public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board. I don't see anyone sitting in the audience. So we will continue with the agenda. Old business, is there any old business? New business, Dr. Cremascoli.
Yes, thank you. The board asked that we review our current attendance rates in light of some discussion around the community regarding attendance at the high school level. And so we have had already started to kind of take a look at that. We wanted to give the board a quick update on that, share a little bit about what we have done, just kind of in our regular practices, some of the things that we're considering, and just give the board the opportunity to react to this. I think that Dr. Swanson is going to lead us through, though the whole team has taken a close look at this, and Tony has helped as well. So, Kristen?
So yeah, when we look at absenteeism and attendance rates, we can see based on our numbers that our students are ranging at different grade levels between 9% chronically absent, and chronically absent would be missing 10% or more of the school days. So, in 100 days of school, that's missing 10 days. As we see, looking at this chart, overall, 15% of our students average or meet that sort of threshold as being chronically absent. We're not seeing a huge differentiation. We range from 9% though in 3rd grade, which I just want to say, yay, 3rd grade teachers and parents. I think that's a nice number. Up to 18-19% at the junior high, and then our kindergarten is also one of our higher outliers. When we look at the reasons for chronic absenteeism, the vast majority of students are absent because of illness or injury. So we are still in the time of COVID, where if somebody has COVID, there's 5 days of isolation. So there's still sort of that minimum number of days that students need to be out for COVID. We also have children that are out for a wide variety. I think we've all been listening to the news and see that flu's been bad this year, RSV, norovirus. It seems like we're hitting getting hit with everything this year. Other reasons that children have been out are personal reasons, unexcused. 4% of our students meet this chronic absenteeism for unexcused absences, and for the most part, those are children that are absolutely on our radar as kids who have school refusal issues, and we're working very closely with families and school staff in order to try and help those students return to school and provide supports for them. Medical and vacation are two of our other reasons for students being out. I will say that many of the students who have the medical designation are students who have either been hospitalized or who have been receiving partial hospitalization programs for mental health treatment. We have seen a huge increase in that this year as well. So what are we doing? Typically, we do letters and phone calls from nurses, administrators, teachers, social workers. We have teams that really look at this information. Our MPSS teams are using absenteeism and attendance rates as part of their sort of triggers for students who may be at risk or may need some more services and support. We partner with our families for targeted interventions. Again, for those students who have a large number of unexcused absences or who are really struggling with school attendance, we have a lot of interventions in place to support those students. We work closely with parents. We also have been providing a lot of supportive programming for our students who have mental health needs in general, because again, we've seen a big rise in that, and I think we're not alone in that. Other districts across the country and across the township as well. We're doing parent education about the importance of regular school attendance. Our principals have been reaching out to families. We have newsletters, handouts, parent education events. Our junior high, which is sort of the largest number of absences or students with that chronic absence, have been sending targeted automated attendance letters. And then we've also been reviewing the attendance guidance from ISB, which has changed over the course of the last few years. There was, they added the COVID designation, they took it away. There's a few other things. So we're looking at that and we're retraining nurses around that. And then as we look forward, we're really looking at the beginning of the school year for next year, what types of things do we want to do to make sure that we're setting everybody up for success, having some back to school letters for families, reminding them about the importance of attendance, looking at a quarterly review of student attendance so that we're doing that in a standardized fashion, sending the monthly attendance reports to parents. Some of you may remember we used to do that a number of years ago, and then when COVID hit, we didn't want kids to come to school if there was any question about health, so we discontinued that. We're thinking about bringing that back. We have access to handouts and posters for school lobbies, for parents during in-person events to sort of, again, emphasize and remind families that attendance is really important. We send the district, we have the targeted automated letters, and then we're reviewing supports and programs that are offered by the Intermediate Service Center. So they have had some new programs. Attendance, absenteeism has been a significant issue across Illinois. And so the ROE, or the Intermediate Service Center, has really started to increase the services that they have available for school districts related to chronic absenteeism. So we are continuing to work on this. We are not alone in this area. I think that we see continued issues across school districts. We have a lot of students who are absent. You know, it seems frequently, well, a day here, a day there, but it adds up pretty quickly. And we know that when children are not at school, they're not learning, and they don't have access then to the education that we are providing. So it does have negative impact on students. So we're going to continue to work in partnership with families to try and encourage that positive attendance for kids. Any questions?
Ms. Kim?
Thank you. So my question is, thank you for this report, and to ask whether do you have any data regarding the effects of chronic absenteeism on, for example, grades or anything like that?
So there is data that indicates that chronic absenteeism negatively impacts students. Students that are chronically absent struggle to read at grade level. There's a whole host of cumulative effects.
Is that data specific to District 39?
We do not
Okay.
have specific data for 39.
Anyone else? Ms. Schneider-Fapes?
I'd have to dig in and find that. It was, COVID was the year that I got here, so I didn't prepare any of those presentations, but I can dig in and see.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the district, I arrived the same year that Kristen did, and the district had an initiative at one point encouraging attendance, which is what led to some of those automated calls and letters and reminders to families. Some really more strict kind of reinforcement of attendance practices. What we found since COVID is we struggle a little bit with that. There are times where we are requiring or strongly encouraging families to keep kids home if they're sick, right? And families have taken that recommendation very seriously. I think a compounding issue is everyone has a little more flexibility in their position in life where they're working. And so it may be that families are making different choices now than maybe they did once before, meaning not all adults have to be in the office all of the time. Family vacations and trips probably have come back with a little more of a resurgence at this point because people had to sacrifice those for a couple of years. So we're seeing a number of factors influencing our students' attendance, probably all of our work-life balance as well, right? So we want to properly place this. What we've heard from our principals who have taken a stronger approach to encouraging attendance, they don't always receive a positive response from parents who are reminded of the importance of student attendance. And so we want to place this, but it really does require a partnership with our families in understanding of what we're trying to accomplish in having kids attend school regularly. I think this year is still an anomaly year. Next year, if this is something we want to more closely and stringently monitor, I think we could take the board's direction in that regard. Just know that I don't know that that perspective is always shared by everyone throughout our community. And so we want to right size this, and we want to encourage families to have children attend school regularly while also acknowledging there are many families and many individuals grappling with medical issues, mental health issues, work-life balance, and a variety of other factors that influence attendance. So
I mean, but the numbers are high, right?
They are high.
19% in seventh grade.
Absolutely.
I sit there and I think about just even the loss of a day sets a child behind. And then it also creates a burden on the teacher.
You got it. Absolutely, it does.
And
no
I,
doubt.
You know, I get that it might not be uniformly popular, but it's not the first time the board could entertain a decision that's not universally popular. So I guess my recommendation is we benchmark that. I really like the idea that we right size it, but to not message aggressively the importance of coming back to school. In my head, I was thinking it was like 5%, but maybe that's wrong. Like from years back, it was low.
That's correct. It was around 5.5%.
This is definitely lower. This is definitely a change.
Exponentially larger.
And again, some of it may still be the coming out of COVID and the medical appointments and, all the things that people are dealing with. But that's a fair point. And we fully acknowledge it is a lot. It's lost learning time for our students and additional work for our staff when students aren't at school. So we can certainly pursue those things that are under consideration that we listed were things that we haven't yet launched, but certainly can, and the principals were feeling as though they could. If we want to more aggressively tackle this, we can pursue those. And then again, in the future, if it is something, even reminders to families sometimes are met with not the kindest responses from our families when we're reminding them of the importance of being in school. So
You should remind.
At least I didn't hear you.
We should remind people to keep coming.
Oh. I just had the same question you did about the change in the rates over the years. And I guess I also wonder about that pie chart. And if it looks different at, say, the elementary level versus Wilmette Junior High, and if our communication or response or the efforts that we put into place would look different because of that. Might be, interesting to look into, especially with the 19%. I wonder if that is 50% still also, or if we're seeing an issue in other areas. And then I would just reiterate the importance of communication, because I do think it's one of those things that it's a day here, it's a day there, and then all of a sudden you see how those days add up. And if that comes alongside some communication about, the importance of it, it can be a wake-up call to see the days, to how they add up over a, few months or semester. And I personally have received a couple of communications this year from teachers, and they've been completely appropriate and good reminders about reasons why kids should not attend school, and the importance of them otherwise being there for themselves in the class.
I mean, in my opinion, like when you look at that pie chart, like really the only people that you're really addressing are the, I don't know, family vacations or something or other, because if people are sick, they're sick, like you can't, there's really no getting around that, especially in our COVID environment. So, yeah, I mean, I agree that stressing the importance of attending school is really important, but I mean, like, when I hear the numbers, I have a child in high school. He's a senior, and both of my kids have missed so much school. I tell everybody, I'm like, if I had a nickel for every day that I had to be home, and they've both been sick. It's been a pretty tough year, and none of us have had COVID actually, but it's as if we had. Right, and when they're sick, they're not sick for one day, they're sick for a couple of days. And actually, I was going to say that I think it's pretty amazing that, that the schools have, like, that neither one of my kids feels that they're behind. And so that's a credit to the schools, and just for helping, or simply adjusting to the fact that there's going to be a certain percentage. I mean, it's not great, and hopefully we'll get back to where we were before.
So if I'm hearing the board's direction at this point, then you would like us to continue to raise awareness, educate families about the importance of regular attendance, and reinvigorate some of those reminders to those who have been absent. Meaning the junior high school has begun to resend really since September, because they were seeing this pattern early on this year. They started sending out those reminders for chronic absenteeism. We can automate that across the district at Highcrest and at the elementary schools. We certainly can pursue that. It's a simple reminder to parents, and we can reinstitute that too, and see if we can affect some change between now and the end of the year.
I have one more question. Are teachers required to give students work to complete if their families go on vacation?
I believe generally the practice is that when they return, they get the work, that they're not given the work in advance of the trip, but the expectation is once they return from the trip, it's the makeup.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that data and for all the work and thoughtfulness that's going into this.
Thanks for the direction.
At this point, may I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiations and specific personnel?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ann Hart,
Here? Yes.
Bonnie Kim,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes, Aaron Stone,
Yes.
Amy Paley.
Yes.
Motion carried. We are now adjourned to executive session, and the time is 4:30.